Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, hi, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. We're here to talk Seahawks football. Got a really good show for you today. We're doing our position group analysis across the entire roster. Today, we've got the offensive tackle position group, one of Keith's favorites. Next show, we'll do the interior offensive line. Again, another favorite of Keith. So back to back, right before you take off on some well-earned vacation. That'll be great. So you're out of school now too, right?
I am. As of yesterday, I'm officially, no longer, I no longer have the day job. So, at least for a couple of months.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm feeling, not nearly rested enough, but I'll get there.
So, straight off the top, how do you feel about this group overall? Give me an overall, sky view picture of this team, this position group.
Solid, but not deep. How's that?
It's so true. After doing the research on this, it's like, man, if Charles Cross and Abe Lucas can't go for whatever reason, I have zero confidence in the remaining players to step in and hold down the fort, even for a few games. I mean, Michael Jarrell played 250 snaps last year, and he really didn't play well. I mean, he exceeded expectations, but his expectations were so low, he was probably going to be a practice squad player. He made the 53 and contributed. That's about as much as I can really say about how he played, though.
Well, I mean,
what are your thoughts?
When he was drafted, he was a project. He was a guy that he's got these lovely physical traits, but no idea what he's doing with them, and had to learn just everything. And he got onto the field way faster than I expected, given the state of the way his footwork was in training camp and such. But his lack of experience and his lack of his footwork, the fundamentals were better when he got on the field, but they still weren't established. It wasn't pure muscle memory. And there were times when he was, you could tell he was thinking about what to do, where to place his feet, where to put his hands. And so obviously it's not ideal. Ideally he would have not gotten on the field last year, but they needed him to. And he went in, like you said, played 250 snaps. That's quite a bit for a guy who was originally, I think when he was drafted, was not expected to make the 53, expected to spend the year on the practice squad. But he's got a long way to go. And I still like his upside. I still think that there's potential for him to develop into a good player, but it's a long projection still.
All right. So let's get back to, the guys at the top. Charles Cross, they just exercised a 5th-year option on him. So he's under contract, technically, for 2 more seasons, including this one. And so he's got a guaranteed salary in 2026 of $17.56 million, which is the 5th-year option in 2026. And he's
which is low for a starting left tackle.
Deal. And he's still playing on his rookie deal this year. Yeah, so that puts him at right around 15th or 16th, I think, overall in the offensive tackle position group. Now, talk to me a little bit about how you feel about his play and his kind of ascension since he started his rookie campaign in 2022, and where you think he might land as far as an extension is concerned. Like, is it going to be around where this 17.5 is, or is he looking at $20+ million a season to stick around?
Well, okay, so let's start. As a rookie, he was good. Not perfect, but he was a rookie. Kind of took a step back in 2023 when he missed a big chunk of the beginning of the season because of injury, and you could tell that there were just some things that were bothering him physically. He wasn't quite the same. And then in 2024, his play was more up and down. When he's on, he's really good. But there are games that he had last year where he was not on, and it hurt quite a bit to watch him play. But I still think these aren't talent issues. These were injury issues. These were him battling through, a shoulder injury and that kind of stuff, which really hurts an offensive tackle. And so I think that, given what they expected from him and his willingness to play through all that pain, like he played pretty well. And the talent's there. Like I said, when he's on, he's dominant. And that's what I'm looking at. So 17 and a half is cheap for a starting left tackle. I would expect it to be more in the 20 to 22 range when he finally gets his long-term deal signed, but that might not be next year. Like he may still play on that 17 number and then have it jump up after that, or it might actually go down next year as far as a cap space, but it'll all be replaced with, because of the long-term deal, it's all just like bonus, and then it gets pushed out over the other deals, the other years. So that's a possibility as well. But yeah, 22 seems a little high. I would say 20 is probably closer, but I always tend to underestimate where these guys sign. So I'll stick to 22. And yeah, for a starting left tackle, that's right about where it should be.
Yeah. So now talk to me a little bit about your impression on his athletic ability and being able to adapt to this new scheme and how it will work out for him.
Oh, I think it's going to fit him really well. He's got his athleticism is a big trait, and his ability to move laterally and do the things that he needs to do in order to get out in front of people and push defensive ends wide rather than trying to push them back. I think that there's a lot of his skill set pairs really well to an outside zone scheme. It really does.
Yeah, I've always thought that he's been a little bit more of a finesse player, which is fine in the NFL, but you need to really be aligned with your scheme and so forth. I thought last year, particularly with Huff and everyone across the board, I think struggled a little bit on that offensive line. And he struggled playing next to a guy that was not very good. Mm-hmm. And so just that alone, I think, will be an improvement for him this year. And I agree with the scheme and Charles Cross. I think it's an ideal fit, and I think he's going to be around the team for quite a while.
Okay, so let me. If you don't have your roster in front of you, don't look at it. How much younger is Michael Jarrell than Charles Cross?
Well, I don't have the age of Michael Jarrell in front of me, but I would hazard to say he's pretty close to 24. And Charles Cross is probably 26, 25.
You've got it backwards. I was a leading question to make sure you got it wrong. Charles Cross is younger than Michael Jarrell.
Interesting.
He's only 24 now. Charles Cross is. He came into the league really young. And yeah, that'll give you an idea of, there's a lot of rookies come into the league at 24. Michael Jarrell did. He's 25. And Charles Cross is 24 with 3 years of experience. So, yeah, he's a young player who's going to continue to get better.
Yeah. Nice. So Charles Cross, after he signed or agreed to the 5th-year option, he says he wouldn't want to be anywhere else but Seattle. I love the fans here. I love the team, one of the greatest organizations in the NFL. I like it a lot here. So expect that extension eventually to get done. Just not this season, probably.
No,
It's probably going to be this time next year. They'll start working on it in earnest, and it'll be done before training camp, probably.
Yeah, they extended the 50-year option, which gave him, a fully guaranteed contract for next year. By next year, I mean 2026. And so that's kind of the starting point for any negotiation, is because it's fully guaranteed. If he says no to any extension ahead of time, he's guaranteed to make that much money. And so the team's not going to be able to talk him down from that number for 2026. That's never going to happen. The salary cap number might be lower, but the overall money is only going to be higher than that. And that's kind of the way it works. And that's part of, I think, why they elected to give him that option, was because it made these negotiations a little easier, and that now they've got a point for next year where this is what you're going to make, whether you say yes or no to a new contract. We can bump that and extend you and keep you happy. And it makes life a little easier for both sides, because of the fact that, yes, there's another year, but it's fully guaranteed. So, yeah.
So Abe Lucas on the other side, right tackle. I mean, everything I'm seeing in the offseason is pointing to this guy could have a special season. I mean, he's fit, he's chiseled, he's been in the offseason workout program without injury, holding him back and structuring those workouts and so forth. Now he's just wide open. The patella tendon surgery that he did have 18 months ago is long behind him now. And he's bought into the offensive scheme. Really everything you want from a right tackle. He's got the diversity where he can be power, he can be zone, he can pancake you, he can drive you out to the sideline. Talk to me about Abe Lucas, how you're feeling about his health and what you expect from him.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was the surprise of the year when he was drafted, because he got drafted in the third round the same year that Cross came in the first round. And Lucas was the better player on the right side. He just dominated over there. Really a surprise, because he came from that Washington State offense, which at the time never ran the ball. They were, they were basically what Seattle's offense was last year under Ryan Grubb. They never ran the ball. They only threw it. And so his pass blocking snaps was really high and very successful, but very little experience as a run blocker. So we didn't know what to expect. And in a Seattle team that ran the ball a lot and took pride in that, we were wondering, okay, how long was it going to take him to adapt? And the answer was nothing. It took him nothing to adapt. Just absolutely came in and dominated, was the team's best offensive lineman as a rookie. Then he hurt his knee. And we've had 2 years now of limited Abe Lucas because of that knee injury. And last year he played quite a bit, but never looked the same as he did as a rookie. He did get better as the season went on, and he got more comfortable and he got stronger. But yeah, him coming into this offseason healthy, that knee didn't need another cleanup like it did last offseason. So there's none of that. He's just working out. He's doing things. He's getting stronger, getting his body back into where it was, 3 years ago. And if we get that Abe Lucas back, the one from his rookie year, he's one of the best right tackles in the entire NFL. And absolutely is a massive upgrade to this offensive line. But will always be concerned with that knee, because, Pete Carroll said it was going to be a chronic problem, and that it's been that way for 2 years. So is it as healthy as all the signs are pointing now, or is it just healthy because he's not playing on it every day? And it'll wear down once the season begins. I don't know. But the idea that we could get a healthy Abe Lucas it should be scary for other teams, because he's a very good player.
So talk to me a little bit about his fit in this scheme, in that he's shown that he can dominate at times with the power stuff and the inside.
he can
gap
dominate
stuff.
in any scheme.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why he was such a good pass blocker, because of all of the lateral agility and his ability to move in space, and all the things that made him great as a pass blocker in college and as a rookie translate directly into the scheme. You know, you kind of take away some of his one of the things he does dominate with is he just pancake blocks, you know, with regularity, and you kind of take that away from him in this scheme, but it doesn't mean he can't do well in this scheme. It's just asking him not to go murder people, and that's probably okay.
Yeah, I agree a little bit. So, you know, the outside zone stuff is going to be, you know, about 70% of the offense, at least statistically based on history with Clint Kubiak. That still means he's going to have 30% power, 30% gap, etc. And also, you know, when you run that gap and you're a tackle, you're kind of leading the spear a lot of the times. You know, you're going to have some tight end stuff, but he's going to get plenty of opportunity to drive guys into the ground and drive them to the sideline and get outside and then turn back and cut off a guy, you know, linebacker or whatever coming across. And so he's going to have his opportunities to be physical. I mean, there's no doubt.
He is.
Let me talk to me about the knee in this scheme. Like, you're not so much worried when he's operating in a smaller area, smaller box, but when you really extend the field and he's got to get out into space and into spots at certain times, is there a concern of yours or anybody else's for that matter, that knee would have extra stress on it, not less?
No. It's not. That is one of the things is that because of the way this blocking scheme worked, and as a tackle, his job is going to be to take the guy who's already on his outside shoulder, and just make him go wide. Like, if they want to get upfield really well, fine, just wash them out of the play, and the play will run behind them. And so there's a lot less, you know, strain there, but pushing them wide is a lot easier to do than pushing them back. And so there's a lot less strain. And his job is to just wash the guy completely out of the play, just push him over to the sideline. And when they're trying to push upfield and you're pushing across him, it's easier to do than when you're pushing directly against him. And so I don't think that the knee doesn't give me a lot of concern with that. The knee would concern me more in a power situation where you're getting the force on it, like he's pushing against someone who's pushing back hard, and it's just that kind of stalemate of forces, and it puts a lot of strain on joints. And the zone scheme where you get guys turned and you turn them sideways and you get them twisted and then just kind of push them out of the way, is just different. It just doesn't have the same strain, the same wear and tear on the knees that a power scheme would. So I actually think this works better for him.
So we talked about Michael Jarrell a little bit. Is there anything you want to add, or we can kind of come back around to? And maybe we can talk now about some of the other guys, and particularly Josh Jones, which I don't know too much about. Came in as a free agent this offseason.
Yeah. Well, as far as Jarrell, like, I think that's kind of it. Like, we don't know where he's going to be. When you're that big of a project and you're learning as fast as you can make big jumps, but those big jumps still might not translate onto the field yet because of just how new all the things are and how much other stuff you have left to learn. Or it might be a big jump and then suddenly it shows up on the field and he looks better. So
he's such an once.
Yeah, it's such an unknown. I wouldn't bet against him. His athletic profile, his size, at 6'5", 294 is a little light, but he actually put on some weight over the course of last year. But my guess is that they're not asking him to bulk up more because in this scheme you want guys that are more mobile.
And so 309.
Really? Okay. The 294 was what he came into the league at. That's what's on the Seahawks.com roster. And so I guess, yeah, he's probably going to be in that range. And it's just a matter of, can he pick up the scheme? Can he learn all of the reads and stuff that have to go on, and all of the rules and all of the cues, so that way you know what to do, because it's a very long set of like things that you have to do. Okay, in this situation you do this, and if this player is there, then you have to get up on them, and here's where you do a reach block, and here's where you do a seal block, and you got to keep track of all those things. And once you get those to a point where you're doing them and not having to think about them all the time, it'll be better. But for him, there's also the added like need to, when he's pass blocking, to mirror better, and get that kick step to get wide but not give up the inside cutback, and to do the footwork things to put your body in the right space but still be able to use your hands, and the placement on the shoulder pad, or on the chest, or wherever, depending on the angle of the player and those kind of things. Like, there's so much that he needs to learn and have it just become muscle memory and just do it, react, and not have to think. When he gets to that point, we could see a very big jump in his ability. And I just don't know when he's going to get there. Him actually getting 250 snaps this last year is going to accelerate that timeline. So we'll see. But I wouldn't count him out. I also wouldn't like pencil him in as a guy that I'm dying to get on the field, early in the season if somebody gets hurt.
Right. All right. Josh Jones, 27 years old, 6'5", 335. He's listed at 335. I'm not sure if he comes in at that. Played in Baltimore in 2024, drafted by the Cardinals in the 3rd round in the 2020 draft. Cardinals ended up trading him to Houston. He played 1 year there and had 3 starts. He didn't do much in Baltimore. Kind of a journeyman guy at this point. Swing guy for sure. He can play both sides, but
he can also play guard.
The talent is marginal at best.
Mm-hmm.
But given the fact that we're so light in this position group, he makes the roster.
Oh, absolutely. I think he does. He is instantly your swing tackle. He replaces Stone Forsythe in the rotation, which, okay. And yeah, you were saying that there's, Jones isn't much to get excited about, but Forsythe was bad. I mean, like, we wanted him to be better and we kept giving him chances. And, there were some physical things that made you think that he could develop, but he never did. And so he was
once thought of as a 3rd round prospect.
Yeah. And then the Seahawks got him in round 6, but, I mean, he's long, he's got good feet. Like, there was reason to think that, Forsythe was going to develop into something. He never did. He never improved. And so Jones comes in needing to replace that. And I think he can do that because, well, it's a low bar to get over. What he does, besides being 6'7" and having that length to pass block a little bit, is he does run block a little better than he pass blocks. We'll see about in this scheme. I think he fits the scheme really well. That's why they brought him in from Baltimore. But I still wouldn't count on him to be, starter level at any point. But he brings versatility. He can play both sides. He's your swing tackle. He can also play both guard spots. And be kind of an emergency player at that position too. He's a guy that's nice to have on the roster, on the active roster on game day, because, well, he can play anywhere for you, and they're going to use him that way. And you're going to see him in training camp lining up at every position across the offensive line except for center. And that way he'll be ready, because they're not expecting him to come in and compete and start. They want him to be ready to come in during a game and play in whatever position is necessary for him to, fill in for someone. And that's what you're going to see out of him. That versatility is valuable, even if he's not going to be good at any of those positions.
So draft pick this year, Mason Richmond, 7th round out of Iowa. When he was picked, I originally thought they'd immediately move him into guard, and so did everyone else. But the team is starting him out at tackle, but I think, he probably ends up not working out there and moving inside. 6'5", 307. He lacks that ideal length that you're looking for, with just 33-inch arms. But he's technically sound. He's athletically inclined to fit into the scheme. And he does have 52 college starts in him. And so he's got that experience, but he still needs to grow a lot. I would imagine he starts the year on the practice squad, but I'm curious as to see if you're seeing anything different.
Well, the team already lists him at guard on the .com. But you're right. In the rookie minicamp, they did have him at tackle. I think part of that is because they had guards like Bryce Cable do that they wanted in there, getting every snap possible at the guard position, and then of course Great Zabel too. So it was trying to get him on the field and working with those guys and doing those things. Plus, you have a situation at guard where Gray Zabel's going to play. He's going to start. He's going to be, kind of the fixture there. And then you've got 3 guys competing for one spot. And if Richmond is there, now you have 4 guys competing for one spot. And I think they wanted to give him a path to being higher on the depth chart. And that's going to be at tackle, where they don't really have anyone else. And so, but he's not long-term there. He's a guard. I mean, he is just athletically, physically, he's a guard. And so, but the tackle depth is so poor that leaving him at tackle and letting him, be a backup right tackle might be how he makes the roster this year.
Maybe.
I would agree. The practice squad seems like his destiny for this first year, while he adapts to being a guard and, has to earn himself some playing time.
Exactly. So talk to me about Amari. Now I'm going to mispronounce this name because I don't know. It doesn't have an N in it, and it's just got a K. So it's either Kite or Knight, depending on how he pronounces it. I'm not sure. Undrafted rookie free agent out of Central Florida. Started his career at Alabama, never broke the rotation there. So he transferred 6'7". Speaking of 318, experience at both tackle spots and could develop into a swing tackle. So depending on what they see in training camp, they could put him onto the practice squad and see if he can develop. But that's all I know about this guy.
Yeah. He was hard to find reliable info on, but yeah, you're right. He started at Alabama, which meant that they don't recruit people who aren't good athletes.
Right.
So
that's very true.
You can assume that there's some athleticism there, but they also recruit everybody and get all the good players. So sometimes you just get beat out and never have a path to actually getting on the field. And then he left and went to Central Florida and, played there, played right tackle some, played left tackle some, so he can play both sides. I don't know much about him beyond that. He's kind of an enigma at this point. This is going to be an interesting when training camp starts. He's going to be one of the guys I'm watching because I don't know who he is. I don't know, is this a guy that has the potential to develop into, a real player, or is this a guy that they're looking at? Okay, we need depth this year, so we signed him as an undrafted rookie free agent just because we needed bodies at the position during camp. My guess is that given what's above him, with guys like Michael Jarrell and Jones, he's got a shot at making a roster. But he's got to come in and prove that he belongs. And he's got the length. We assume that he's got the athleticism. And yeah, if he's got the functional strength and a little bit of technique, then the little bit of technique will be better than Michael Jarrell at the moment. And so, yeah, there's a shot that he could come in and be, and give Jarrell a run for that roster spot.
Or equally, there's a chance that he's one of the first guys cut on this roster and they replace him with somebody else.
Anybody else. Yeah. They're like, oh, we need a roster spot. Here you go. You go somewhere else and we'll, cause we needed a spot for another person. That's also possible. We just don't know yet. And it's so hard to find tape from Central Florida at this stage. So I couldn't get, or other than a couple of highlights from their quarterback and then trying to watch him from that, and he looked fine, but that's not a good sample. And yeah, I mean, it was hard to get tape and actually get to watch him on stuff. So in the terrible sample, you know what I mean? Like only highlights of a different player. He looked all right. He looked like he had a decent kick step, a decent amount of punch. Knock some guys back with some of those blocks, but it's also lower level competition and this isn't a play-by-play thing where you need to watch a game. You need to watch how he does one play after another, not just, a highlight here and there.
So based on the inaction, I mean, they got Josh Jones, they drafted Mason Richmond, but overall this position group was weak prior to the draft, prior to free agency, and it's still weak. Mm-hmm. Does that give you any indication as how do they feel about Michael Jarrell? A guy that can come in and really take a step forward and be a legit backup at either tackle spots?
I don't know if it says much about Michael Jarrell. I think it says more about their confidence in Abe Lucas's knee, because they feel like, okay, we've got our two guys, we've got our starters. Now we just need some backups that, if all goes well, never see the field.
Yeah, but also we have $30 million of cap available. You'd think that maybe they would have addressed this position group. Now, I'm just looking across the board at all the positions on this team. This is one of the weaker position groups on the entire roster. In terms of
depth, it is. The problem was that by the time they had all of that cap space, because remember, they started out over the cap and had to, do some things to get under it before the league year started. By the time all the things went down that created all this cap space that they have now, the players that were worth bringing in were already signed elsewhere. That's why they went with Jones, was because he was a very low cost, versatile option that could play anywhere on the line, and didn't go out and get a guy that they trusted to be a backup, but then also be able to start in a pinch. George Fant was the guy they had last year in that role, right? But they had to pay him in order to have him on the roster. He made more than your typical backup tackle. And then, of course, he never played because he got hurt right at the beginning of the year, in the first game, and never got back. And so,
decide to, put draft capital towards Jalen Milroe, technically the third quarterback on the roster, rather than take that top 100 pick and invest it into the tackle position, which,
true.
But also I'm happy about it.
I mean, that's a swing for the fences. Like, yeah, you can try and hit a single, but sometimes you just got to try and hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah.
And I love these baseball metaphors in a football show. But yeah, I mean,
the Milroe trying to knock it out of the park. I really do.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
Like it's
right?
actually, it's been a good investment so far. Like he's exceeding expectations.
Oh yeah.
In camp.
Yeah. In the OTAs and stuff, people are like, this kid was a 3rd round pick. Like, what the hell? Like, they're not seeing any, of course, there's no defense, right? And so he doesn't have guys around his legs. He's able to focus on his footwork and the lower half, which is what his problem was, is he throws off platform and does it poorly.
It's encouraging though, nonetheless.
Yeah, it is. Because the more repetitions that he gets with the platform being right and his footwork being right and the focus being on making sure that he sets himself up, the more it becomes muscle memory and the more he doesn't drop back into the, what caused all the problems in college. And so if they can get that stuff worked out and fixed, the guy's got a massively high ceiling, just incredibly high. So, yeah, I mean, we're supposed to be the tackle show, not the quarterback show, but honestly, like, you have an opportunity to go get a guy like that. Sometimes you just have to roll the dice and go, you know what, let's see what happens. And that may pay off much bigger than a backup tackle would have.
Well, there's no doubt.
Right?
I mean, you know, especially when you consider Jalen Milroe's floor, like it's already a guy that's going to impact your offense. So
yeah, his floor is a guy who's going to be a gadget player who comes in the wildcat and runs and will occasionally throw deep out of that. And you can do, like, you know, stuff just to piss off opposing teams. That's already got a lot of value, and that's his floor, right? And his ceiling would be then, you know, a franchise quarterback. So you got to see how it plays out. But any tackle that they had drafted in that spot might make you feel better about the depth at this position, but never going to have the impact that Milroe will, because there's already players, the starters above them, right? They're not even, this player is not going to get on the field all that well. And it's very rare that you get a Abe Lucas in the third round who can come in and play at a really high level.
Right.
Tackle is not one of those positions. Usually, if you want a guy that can get on the field and play at a high level, you got to take him in the first round.
That's true. Okay, so wrap this thing up for me. You know, the entire offense is predicated on not only this position group, but the guards and the center to exceed expectations and really make this thing work. Like, because they're going to be so focused on running the ball, and anything kind of comes out from that. Is this team, especially this group we just talked about, capable of that? Especially if maybe one of those guys ends up being hurt or injured. And then what happens?
If the two tackles are healthy, absolutely, this group is capable of doing their part in Seattle having a functional offense that works and is efficient and does all the things they need it to do. If one of the tackles gets hurt, they're going to struggle, because you don't have the drop off from Charles Cross to Michael Jarrell or to Josh Jones is severe, and you can't just, you know, take that big of a hit at such a key position and roll on like nothing happened. They just don't have the depth that you would need to cover in case of an injury. Now, hopefully, if one of those guys does get hurt, it's one of those like short term, they'll be out for a week or two. You can scheme around some stuff, keep a tight end next to Jarrell and cover it up, and before teams can figure out how to take advantage of it. And then you get the player back. But, you know, we'll have to kind of wait and see. This is one of the things, like, this is a roster in transition. They aren't loaded, you know, in terms of talent and depth at every position. They haven't had a chance to build that yet. They spent this year off season, you know, recalibrating a lot of the offense. They just didn't get to tackle yet.
So who gets signed to a new contract first, Charles Cross or Abe Lucas?
Abe Lucas. Abe Lucas is in the final year of his contract. Charles Cross is not. Charles Cross has another year because of that 5th-year option. So Abe Lucas gets re-signed first.
I mean, Abe Lucas is eligible to be extended.
Mm-hmm. Right now.
Why would you extend him now? Why would you wait?
If you're going to extend him now, it's because you believe your medical team tells you that the knee is healthy and improving and not going to be a problem, and you want to get him re-signed before he comes out and has another Pro Bowl year like his rookie year. And drives his price up. You would wait if you are worried about the long-term implications of that knee and the fact that he's had 2 years of that knee giving him a lot of trouble. And if you're like, let's see if he ever gets back to that point. Because if he comes out in this year and has another year like last year where he was good in spots, but overall just unable to overcome, the physical problems, his price is going to be really low at the end of this year. And maybe you try and take advantage of that. It's kind of a wait and see approach either way. But if you feel really confident about his knee, you go get it done now.
Yeah, and another argument is we've been so bad for so long, a decade. Okung was the last tackle we extended. You have an opportunity here for continuity's sake, to lock down 2 of your best offensive linemen in the last 10 years. And it's hard to say, why wouldn't you? But I get it. The knee. You can't afford to spend, 15 to $18 million on Abe Lucas if you do that and all of a sudden he can't play again, or he's diminished, never gets back to being on top of his game. That's just money thrown out the window. So, and it could eventually be that anyway. If he has an outstanding year, makes it through the year, health wise, and then next year something happens and he's been paid, it is what it is. But
yep.
I hope it works out for him. Really, like that solved it. That was a one-off, injury, and it solved it. And now you're moving forward. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if he is back physically to where he was as a rookie, this is a player who can dominate, just absolutely dominate. And so it's worth, he's worth any investment at that point, because you get very few guys that can just be completely, especially at right tackle. There's some good left tackles out there, but right tackle is one of those positions where you look around the league and find me a good right tackle. There aren't many. It's one of those things that teams hide their right tackle behind a tight end and other things. There are very few right tackles out there that are actually genuinely good players. And if Seattle has found one of them, that puts them at an advantage over other teams.
All right. Next show, we have got the interior offensive line. It's a fun, exciting group if it works. There's not a lot of experience when you take a look at it. There's a lot of upside, but very low experience rate. And so it's going to be a fun competition this year.
Yep. And I know we're going to argue about one particular player, but that'll be fun.
Probably all the players. We'll probably argue about all the players, except for Gray Zabel. I think he's the stable. You can just pen him in right now at left guard, but everything else is kind of, all right. You can find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform, on our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, all that good stuff. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.